Hello! So today is going to be another installment, or I guess technically the first installment in our Dark Femininity series, but I would like to kind of include the caveat that this is more like destructive dark femininity, because dark femininity as a whole is not bad. There are ways to use it and wield it in a way that is for good versus evil, if you will. But this is kind of going to be about, like we talked about in the first video, more the ways that dark femininity can get out of control and some of the ways that we might be using it to harm ourselves and others. So because I haven't played with makeup a lot this year, and I feel like doing these videos while I put makeup on might just be fun, I decided to do some dramatic looks. I've done really chill makeup for a while, and something in me wants to just pile makeup on. Serve look, serve face. I want to recreate something along this line. This is a makeup look by Painted by Spencer. So it's basically like a gunmetal silver glittery black smoky eye. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Everything I use will be listed down below. If something I use is no longer in production, like my Makeup Geek shadows, and I will list dupes. Also, if you missed the priming video on this subject, I will link it down below, and I will leave some notes because I do not want to do disclaimers in every single video. And I also want to alert you guys to another YouTube channel that I love that talks a lot about femininity, and I just think this content creator is amazing. I can't remember what her real name is, but her YouTube channel is called Everyday Starlet. But definitely watch her channel if you guys enjoy talking about feminine energy, dark femininity. All this stuff is so interesting and fascinating to me, and I could talk about it all day, and she's just an incredible resource. So a few months ago, I watched another amazing video about feminine energy and femininity by a content creator named The Authentic Observer, and she said something in it that I've quoted many times, that I've shared with other people, because I feel as if it kind of personifies the theme of this video, kind of what I want to talk about. What happens to young girls and young women when they come of age and they're starting to feel their dark feminine energy be activated, but they're really not taught anything about it. And I'm going to read you the quote because I think it's amazing. It's as if out of nowhere, you were suddenly handed a really sharp and dangerous sword that you didn't ask for, can't get rid of, and don't know how to use. Is that power? It can be. But just as easily you can hurt yourself and others because you have no idea what to do with it, and it might take you a very long time to figure out how to wield it properly. And maybe it can make you a target as easily as it can make you more powerful. So that's basically the theme, the thesis, the point, much more concisely said than I'm about to say it. I thought it would be cool, based on the fact that it's spooky season, to use movies, horror movies, you know, thrillers, dark kind of subject matter to paint the picture of what unchecked, uncontrolled dark feminine energy, destructive dark feminine energy can do. So some of the movies and characters I want to talk about today have already been discussed ad nauseum for kind of like being feminist icons or agents or taking down the patriarchy, which is fine, but that's not the lens that I'm going to be talking about them through, and that's for two reasons. One, I am bored to death of everything about being a woman, from what it means to be one, what makes a good or bad one, being boiled down to whether or not something is pro or anti-feminist. I figure that there are only a million places on the internet to have that conversation. If you want to have it, that's okay. I'm not passing any judgment. I've definitely been a part of those conversations for the majority of my life, and it's not that I'm saying there's no validity or point to those conversations. I'm just saying I'm tired of everything having to be distilled down to good feminist and bad feminist. Like, I kind of want to leave that out of the conversation and talk just about the dark, destructive feminine energy that I want to talk about today. I also just want to kind of talk about other things that I see in some of these characters or movies. I know that the creators of these characters and movies had most likely very intentional points that they were trying to illustrate using their villains and their protagonists and their antagonists and the medium by which they chose to tell the story. Like, I know all that. And I'm not saying that I don't agree with them, but if I start talking about, like, we're going to talk about Jennifer's Body, for example, a lot of people say that that's a feminist film, which I'm not taking anything away from. But again, that's not the conversation we're having today about the film. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. But yeah, today I want to talk about the birth of our dark feminine energy. So a lot of us feel that kind of light feminine energy from a very young age, you know, kind of that draw to making things pretty and nurturing and like tending to things like our baby dolls, having a more gentle disposition, pink and glitter and princesses. Like, that seems simple enough for a time, and then one day something changes. We become young women, and it's like overnight, the whole world reacts differently to us, and we can even just feel completely different inside of our skin. So I wanted to talk about a few movies and their main characters that embody this transition. So first we're going to talk about Ginger Fitzgerald from Ginger Snaps. Then we're going to talk about Jennifer Check from Jennifer's Body, and we're going to talk about Carrie White from the movie and book Carrie. Specifically the movie, because I've not read the book, but I've seen the movie like 700 times. So let's start with Ginger. And if you've not seen Ginger Snaps, I honestly don't know what you're doing with your life. I think I saw it for the first time in 2010, and it became a crucial part of my October / spooky season movie rotation. It's classic. There will be some mild spoilers all around, so just be warned. Ginger Snaps tells the story of two sisters, Bridget and Ginger, who are best friends. A large part of their bond comes from their mutual disdain from the cookie cutter suburban community they live in and their interest in the dark and the macabre. It can almost be stated that they are the personification of that phrase, misery loves company. They even have a pact, a certain kind of pact. I don't want to say what kind of pact and then get demonetized, but let's just say they have agreed to do the big checkout at the age of 16 years old. Then one day, one incredibly bad day, like the fact that these two events would line up just seems unfair. But Ginger starts her first period and gets attacked by a werewolf. Over the next few weeks in the movie, we watch Ginger kind of become a woman, like go through that physical transformation, while she is also going through the physical transformation of becoming a werewolf. Horrifying, right? Some people feel like the whole puberty werewolf metaphor is a little on the nose. I think it's hilarious and very appropriate. So a few things with Ginger immediately change. One of them is that she kind of turns on her sister, which, like I said in the beginning of the movie, it's made very clear how close and devoted to each other they are. And then all of a sudden, Ginger is a little less interested in the kinds of things her and her sister once bonded over in favor of things like boys and just kind of wilding out in general. Her developing an interest in boys at all is kind of depicted as like brand new for her. In fact, there's a scene in the beginning of the movie where she finds this one particular boy completely repulsive, and then once she is bitten by the werewolf, so to speak, that changes basically overnight. We also start to see the people around her change the way they treat her, the way they react to her. She also becomes very confident in herself, but also in her sexuality. We basically watch the process of Ginger turning into a complete weapon, which is very much what your femininity kind of is, but the problem is that when you're a teenage girl, much like the quote from the beginning of the video, you have no idea what to do with this. And we don't teach girls anything about it either. You know, we teach them what to be careful of, the mechanics of our bodies, and why things are happening, but we don't really talk about the ramifications on our spirits and on our hearts of not using this newfound gift in pursuit of our highest good. All we know when we are this age is that we are trying to get some needs met, we're trying to heal some core wounding, and this new dark feminine energy kind of calls on us, encourages us, emboldens us to do so in the most bull in a china shop way possible. We see a lot of what's happening with Ginger through the eyes of her sister Bridget, her horror at the literal and metaphorical monster that Ginger is becoming. And Ginger is destroying everything she touches with this reckless and gleeful abandon. She's an animal that has been let loose from a cage. It's mostly a pleasurable thing for her to experience. Like, there's a few moments early on where she kind of displays some grief and frustration with the process, but as she kind of delves deeper into her dark feminine energy, that conscience kind of goes away. And this is part of why I think there are so many movies about girls turning into some kind of monster. If you've ever been a teenage girl, you know how awful they can be. And I think this is why this kind of like monster side of us can come out. You know, you're mad that your body is doing all this stuff that you don't want it to do, and you know, maybe you're getting some positive attention that you want, but then there's all this unwanted attention that starts coming your way as well, and maybe even aggression. All the while, you're kind of under the thumb and control of your parents and teachers who won't listen to you and still consider you a child, even though you do not feel like one anymore. And I think this is where a lot of times in a young woman's life, you can kind of start rebelling for the sake of rebelling, trying to prove a point. You know, that you are no longer a child and you don't want people to see you that way anymore. Some people become a bully themselves. That's where like mean girls can kind of get activated. You can have a streak of promiscuity during this time. Just basically anything that allows you to double down on this urge that you have that, as Ginger puts it in the movie, makes you want to, quote, tear everything to pieces. So let's move on to Jennifer Check. Jennifer Check is from Jennifer's Body, and there is a similar but somewhat different story and driving motivation for her behavior from Ginger. Plus, I'm kind of going in like phases. Like, Ginger's story is kind of the beginning of your dark feminine energy kind of being activated, and kind of that initial, the birth of the monster, the birth of the dangerous woman. And then Jennifer Check's story is kind of like, okay, you've had this energy for a little while, but maybe something motivates you to take your destructive abilities with it even further. Jennifer's Body tells the story of two best friends, Needy Lesnicki and Jennifer Check, as implied kind of by her name. Needy is very attached to Jennifer. There are several scenes in the movie where you see Needy kind of in awe of Jennifer, watching Jennifer, and it's kind of done in a way that leads us to believe that maybe there are some romantic feelings between the two. We're not really going to get into that part because it is touched on and it's alluded to in the movie, but it's not a huge plot point. But I will speak about their relationship from the perspective of just very devoted friends for the sake of this kind of analysis. In Bridget and Ginger's case, what you're watching is Bridget, who is younger than Jennifer, kind of be in awe of and terrified of and shocked by the metamorphosis of stepping into your dark feminine or your womanhood era versus your light, your strictly light and kind of girlish era. So when Bridget is watching this, it's even harder for her to understand and kind of come to terms with, because she's not gone through this yet. She's considered kind of the younger one. I mean, she is the younger sister in the movie, but she's considered kind of the before, and Ginger is the after. In this case, it's pretty clear that Needy has already come in to her womanly essence, so to speak. Now, even though she is different from Jennifer, she's not, you know, considered or painted to be as some virginal, perfect, innocent, fresh-faced girl. She is very much a young woman. Needy is a lot more introverted, passive, relationship-oriented, and focused on pleasing others. Jennifer is aware of her ability to control and manipulate people because she's a beautiful girl, and it seems like she has been pretty much her whole life. So she's definitely learned how to use that to her advantage. But it's pretty clear that while she still wants to get people to do what she wants them to do, it doesn't seem like she cares too much about other people the way that Needy does. In Jennifer's mind, it's all about Jennifer. So in the movie, Jennifer and Needy go to a bar one night to see this band play, and Jennifer is enamored with the group, particularly the lead singer. She gets invited to go with them in their creepy van to hang out. Needy doesn't want to. She gets bad vibes. Jennifer, even though again she is in her kind of womanly dark feminine energy, and that she feels experienced and kind of prepared to go do whatever it is supposed to happen in this creepy van, she is still young and again does not understand kind of what this energy that she has the potential to do. It's that dangerous aspect of it where it's like, if you don't know what you're doing with it, bad things can happen. And unfortunately, that's exactly what transpires, except not in the way you would originally think, because what this band does, so that they can, quote, be as famous as that guy from Maroon 5, is they attempt to sacrifice Jennifer in some sort of like, I don't know, demonic ritual that's supposed to guarantee that they're going to have all this fame and fortune. But they do this thinking Jennifer is a virgin. They need a virgin for the ritual. She is not a virgin. Like I said, she's very much kind of past the point of awakening into her dark feminine, into her sexual energy. Now it's just, she's just kind of a loose cannon with it a little bit. She's very aware of what she has, and she's at least very aware that people want it. The band has her all wrong, and because she is not a virgin, she turns into a demon, a teenage boy eating succubus demon. And it seems like at first she's not aware of her need to eat boys. It's just the first one that she does. I think it's more like she just feels called to do so. But she does figure out pretty quickly that if a lot of time passes between her feedings, that's when she starts to feel depleted. You know, she's not as glowy or vibrant. It just, Needy even tells her she looks tired. Like, Jennifer is used to having this physical beauty and kind of magnetism being kind of the main way she moves through the world and gets her needs met. And when she's not feeding off boys, that goes away. When she gets her fix, you know, her hair is shiny, she is buzzing, she's glowing, she feels like a god. Now, Jennifer's body has been said to be a feminist or revenge fantasy. The idea, I think, is that for once, you know, the beautiful boy crazy character is not only not being punished using the traditional horror movie rules of yore, but she becomes the dangerous one to fear. Again, I get all that. It's fine. I do agree in a lot of ways that that is a really good analysis and kind of probably the very well-intended point of the story written by Diablo Cody. But again, I'm really wanting to talk about this from the perspective of the dark and the light feminine energy. And to be clear, the point of this video is not to say like dark feminine energy equals bad. More to think of the girls in these movies as baby snakes. Like venomous baby snakes are more dangerous than their fully grown counterparts, because I think I don't know if it's that snakes only produce a certain amount of venom and they need to like stockpile it, but for some reason, snakes as they get older learn how to control the amount of venom they release on their victims, or their prey, I should say. Baby snakes do not know how to do that, so they release a crap ton when they bite, way more than they need to. In other words, they have this ability, you know, this power, this defense mechanism built into their DNA, but they have no idea how to use it. And in the case of the girls, there is rage, frustration, and angst inside of them, and their dark femininity is the tool that they use to unleash this. Jennifer has been harmed in a truly disgusting way in this movie. And when she comes back as the demon, she feels not only that she wants to harm others, but she literally kind of has to in order to survive, just cope and live her life. And like, what is more indicative of that kind of dark feminine energy taking over than really sinking into whatever gives you pleasure, even if it can come at your detriment or the detriment of others, particularly your detriment, which again, Jennifer, much like Ginger, is destroying everything in her life, including what at one point was her most valued relationship with Needy. She takes her rage out on a few teenage boys, but then eventually it goes to Needy. Like when she tries to seduce and eat Needy's boyfriend, Chip. Needy even calls her out on this in the movie. She tells Ginger that it's a clear showing of her deep and constant insecurity, that out of all the people she could choose from, Jennifer would go after Chip. You know, like we talked about in the first video, part of dark femininity is that seductress, that sensual side, that kind of siren song that we have the ability to unleash on men. And someone like Jennifer, like, there's literally no one that she couldn't get to acquiesce to her, but she sets her sights on Chip for a reason. It's one of the ways that the dark feminine has the ability to destroy. It destroys relationships. It destroys bonds. Because that's, like, for example, one of the ways dark feminine rage is unleashed. It's how we kind of try to dominate or harm things around us. Dark masculine energy wants to dominate and control, like, from the outside. That's one of the differences between feminine energy and masculine energy. Feminine energy is very much inside of us. It's kind of hidden. It deals with the emotions and with intuition. So if a woman or someone in their feminine energy wants to harm you, you know, they're not going to punch you in the face. They're going to go for your soul. Like, they're going to stay in here rent free for the rest of your life if they push the right buttons just so. And that's what happens with Jennifer and Needy. And haven't we all been there too, by the way, as teenage girls? I'm willing to bet anything in your young days, either your teenage years or early 20s, you have either done this to someone or someone's done it to you. And I think it's just another good example of, like, that rage and that not being sure as a young woman how to deal with your feelings. Like, Jennifer clearly has some mixed up, messed up issues going on with Needy that she's not willing to address or talk about. So the whole thing of going after Chip really isn't about Chip. It's about Needy. And the dark feminine will do that. When women want to hurt each other, that's one of the ways they'll do it. They'll go after your man. Let's move on to Carrie White. By the way, I know I am breezing through these movies and all the potential messages and things we could talk about, but like I said, point of this video was just to frame these characters in these movies as an example of when our dark feminine kind of gets activated, not necessarily the conclusion of each individual character's journey. But just spoiler alert, these young women not having their feminine energy under control doesn't end well for anybody. So Carrie, for me, is what happens when dark feminine energy is suppressed and oppressed. Like I've said, the point of this series is not to kind of paint the picture that feminine energy, or dark feminine energy in particular, is objectively bad. It's to help us become aware of these tendencies, these defense mechanisms, the darker sides of them, and how to keep them in balance and in harmony. But the only thing worse than not maintaining these energies in alignment would be suppressing them altogether. For those of you who don't know somehow, since this movie is like 40 years old, Carrie is the story of Carrie White. She is a quiet, sensitive young girl living with her religiously fanatical and abusive mother. She's also bullied at school by her peers relentlessly. So in the movie, one of the girls that attends school with Carrie kind of takes pity on her after a particularly nasty bullying session and decides to ask her popular boyfriend, I think his name was Tommy, to take Carrie to the prom in hopes that Carrie will make some friends and kind of come out of her shell and just in general have a good time. Meanwhile, this wretched human snail trail, I think her name is Trish, I can't remember, decides simultaneously that she wants to take revenge, especially once she finds out that Carrie's going to prom, that she wants to take revenge on Carrie for some perceived slight that Carrie supposedly enacted on her, which by the way isn't true. Carrie didn't do anything. Chris is just awful. But anyway, her and her human pop collar of a boyfriend decide that they are going to rig the prom queen election. And when Carrie goes on stage to accept her award as the queen, they're going to dump a huge vat of pig's blood on her head. The plan goes expected, but little do the popular dipshits know that Carrie has an extraordinary ability. Before prom, and we don't really know in the movie for how long she's been aware of this, but definitely before prom, Carrie is becoming aware of and trying to perfect, harness, hone in her telekinetic abilities. So when the pig's blood is dumped on her at prom, Carrie unleashes this on everyone. She does this by viciously maiming and attacking everyone in the gym, as well as burning it down, with everyone still inside. In the very opening credits of the movie, we see a scene where Carrie is taking a shower in the girls' locker room. Side note, do you guys know that my daughter's gym, not her gym, but her gym class, don't even let these girls dress out anymore. They have to go run in their regular clothes, let alone take a shower. It's wild to me that kids used to take showers in front of each other. Like, we certainly were doing that when I was in school, but even now it's come even further, and like these kids don't even dress out anymore. It's so weird. The movie's beginning shows Carrie in the locker room where she gets her period for the first time, and the rest of the girls mock and torment her mercilessly. Her mother tells her that her developing body is sinful in nature. She even tells a story about how Carrie was conceived because her mother was so wicked for sleeping with her husband, painting all aspects of feminine desire as something to be ashamed of, even calling Carrie's breasts dirty pillows. Always makes me laugh when I think of that. If you think about it, even the revenge plot put together by the popular kids feeds on some of the most basic tenets of that which the feminine craves. Adoration, to be seen, to be wanted, and then the kind of cruel aspect is pulling the rug out from underneath her once she finally attains those things. Carrie is consistently denied, shamed, humiliated, surrounding basically anything that involves her feminine growth. And once she can no longer take that anymore, she is destructive on a tragic scale. Even the fact that Carrie's superpower is telekinesis is kind of feminine. Carrie could never lift a table and impale someone with it herself, but she can conjure up something inside of her that can do just that. Where Jennifer and Ginger immediately act out their dark femininity the moment it becomes accessible to them, Carrie not only hasn't been doing that, but she would probably be very afraid to do so because she feels unworthy of it. It's evident when she tells the gym teacher that she knows she's not pretty enough, or because she feels it's something that would result in severe punishment, much the way her mother locking her in a closet after she gets her first period represents. The gym teacher, Miss Desjardins, I hope I'm saying that correctly. She's an excellent example of someone trying to guide Carrie through her developing dark femininity. She wants to help Carrie nurture that side of herself and feel comfortable with it, and this is something I think all young women need. As we have seen with Ginger and Jennifer, left unchecked or unstudied, the dark feminine energy inside of them leads to chaos, destruction, and pain. Carrie, the fact that she is denied these positive representations and affirmations of her femininity, dark and otherwise, she ends up with a deep sense of repression, a sense of being othered, and a very intense rage. I'm going to do my hair, change, get ready for my next video, all that good stuff, but I will come back after that and wrap this thing up with you guys. So now we've reached the very special message part of this video. Like, what can we actually learn from all of this? I don't have a lot of teenage girls watching me, but if I do, then what I would suggest you guys do is seek out guidance on what it means to be a woman from trusted adults. It takes more to learn about being a woman than just watching hundreds of hours of true crime in order to think of all the ways you could better prepare yourself for violence. Although that's important, it is a survival skill, it still doesn't help you understand really the power that you hold over yourself and over others. And how when we don't appreciate or examine these sides of us, they eventually make themselves known in more self-destructive ways. I said in my last video that the conversations around feminine energy are the only ones I have ever heard where being a woman is really celebrated as opposed to something to fear or be resentful of. And I think more conversations like that with young women and those in their feminine energy could be very impactful. It changes the understanding from it's only good to be a woman if we can be more like men to it's great to be a woman, period. If you are well past the teenage/early 20s, you know, when we're out of baby snake status, then one thing you can do to heal is really to forgive yourself for the things that you did when you just flat out didn't know any better. You know, like I just said, a lot of stuff around the unique kind of feminine rage, which is a video I'll be making soon. We're going to do a whole video on that. We're going to talk about Amy Dunn from Gone Girl, Alex Forrest from Fatal Attraction, and Katherine Trammell from Basic Instinct. But feminine rage and insecurity really does bring out such an interesting side to those of us in our feminine energy. And I just think it's helpful to really reflect and try to see what you can learn from kind of the baby stages of that you were going through in your teen/early 20s, and kind of figure out if you're still replicating some of those behaviors now and if it's actually serving you. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you thumbs up and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos in the dark, destructive dark femininity series. And if you guys want to see a video on dark femininity, like the positive sides of it, the positive ways you can use it, kind of the more sensual, mysterious, seductive sides of it that are for us and actually benefit us, I can totally do that as well. But like I said, because we're in spooky season, I thought we would go a little more on the dark side. So anyway, hope you guys are doing really well, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.